welcome to the Tea Fix podcast. I'm Leona Liu, here with my co-host, Geoff Norman, Skyping in from Portland, Oregon. Geoff, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So we're actually recording a little earlier than our normal time. And it feels nice and bright and...
By a little, we mean before noon for once, which is weird. I'm still getting used to this whole day walker thing.
The sun is out.
The sun is out. Yeah.
Tomorrow. So I wanted to start this episode, which we're talking about health benefits of tea. Quote unquote, health benefits of tea. And I wanted to start with a little bit of listener feedback that we got. One is actually on our YouTube channel, and it was in reference to our oolong versus oolong episode. We were talking about how many times the leaves were bruised and withered, and actually Cup of Cha responded and said, I know one Taiwan farmer who will roll, detangle, roll again up to 40 times for competition grade. And the least that I've heard is 9 times.
Whoa.
So, yeah. Whoa is right. That's amazing. And probably takes them a very long time to do that.
Yeah, she has been to Taiwan, I think, a few times. I'm not exactly sure how many. But, I know who made that comment, and she would know. I wouldn't know. I mean, I thought it was like 10, and there's music playing in the background. But, yeah, she would know.
Yeah. And then another listener feedback we got is from Kimberly at Tea is a Wish blog, and this is on Twitter. And she had said, this is my favorite podcast right now. I may or may not have listened to all of the currently available episodes in one day. And then she also responded by saying, you can tell that you guys have so much fun. I'll never be able to hear the words lemon zest the same way again. And that is in reference to one of our first episodes where Geoff shared one of his teas that he enjoyed, which is lemon zest.
Oh, and it's a good thing that we didn't have video of what I was doing while that was being shouted.
Well, we have video now, so if you want to.
It was kind of like lemon zest.
Yeah, it was very exciting.
Yeah.
So thank you for your feedback. We always enjoy listener feedback and hearing about your thoughts and anything that we cover on the show. So
yes, thank you.
Yeah. So I kind of wanted to start off with this episode talking about health benefits by sharing a little bit of our personal experience with tea and health benefits. And
You go first. I have a lot to say. You go first.
I go first. All right. So for me, starting to drink tea, the main reason that I got into tea was not because of quote unquote health benefits of the tea. I drink it purely as a beverage. It was something that we had with meals or at home and throughout the day. And it wasn't until I really started working at a tea shop, working at Teavana, that I really started to learn about these health benefits of tea.
What is this snake oil you speak of?
Yeah, exactly. And so as a salesperson, you would have to sell the tea not for the flavor. I mean, the flavor was a small portion of it, but also push like the health benefits of why you're drinking this tea. And some of the things that I would have to say is like white tea is good for like your bones and teeth, and it's good for your hair, and green tea will help with metabolism and may also help prevent cancer and all of these kind of things. And so anytime before working at the tea shop, I didn't really, the health benefits, it was never a consideration of why I would drink tea. It was mainly just a flavor that I wanted to try. And so, yeah, that's really my kind of first experience with health benefits. And to be honest, when I was selling it, or when I was pushing the reasoning for why you should be drinking this tea, and if it was for anything other than flavor, especially when it has to do with like curing any type of ailment, it made me feel very uncomfortable. And we can talk a little more about the details of that later. But Geoff, you have a story that you'd like to share as well. Be nice.
Oh gosh, where to start?
And one thing, I'm sorry, Geoff.
Go ahead.
Actually, when we first started talking, the reason why you started going, usually when I meet someone, I ask them like, oh, how did you start getting into tea? And this was kind of leading into the story, I think, of one of the reasons we started chatting and discussing tea back and forth is, you pulling me to different articles on your tea blog at steepstories.com. Mm-hmm. And it kind of, this natural progression of health benefits and flavors and whatnot. So sorry, go ahead and share your story.
No, that yours is a good story because it makes sense. It's not something that you actually had to experience firsthand with trial and error over whether or not any of this stuff actually worked. Because when I first got started with tea, I got started because of men's health concerns, then moved on to other concerns that pertain to illnesses that didn't actually exist. Fell into the trap of getting into herbals that apparently dealt with these mythical ailments and really hurt myself in the process, particularly when I was worried about weight. And I tried one of those diet teas, not knowing exactly what senna would do to my body. For those who don't know, senna is a stimulant laxative and a very strong one. I do not recommend it. You'll hate yourself for 2 days. So will your toilet. And I even had to chronicle everything because people have always wondered why words like T-tox or detox are... Detox is my trigger word. I don't have any trigger words, but detox is my trigger word. I don't care about anybody's purported claims regarding any sort of tea, any sort of herb, as long as they're not hurting anyone else or hurting themselves in the process. But the whole concept behind detox culture actually causes physical harm, and I have the ketosis story to prove it.
And so what kind of ailments were you kind of looking to fix with, or to, I guess, cure or help with in terms of this like journey of herbal and teas?
Yeah, I was worried about I was worried about gum disease, and so that actually started me on white tea. In fact, white tea was the first loose leaf tea that I kind of favored because it really didn't have as bitter or astringent a flavor. You brewed it light, preferably, and I kind of bought into the whole antiviral, antifungal quality after reading several integrative medicine articles. And I never noticed a difference, but then the bonus was I developed an appreciation for white tea, and that kind of started the loose leaf cascade journey. Then after that, I was concerned with this mythical ailment called systemic candidiasis, which is not to be confused with candidiasis, actual candidiasis, which is yeast infections. And there was this prevailing belief that if your gut flora isn't properly balanced between probiotic or good bacteria and your body's natural composition of yeast, that it causes illnesses like migraines, lethargy, weight problems, depression. Basically anything that has a nebulous cause is attributed to systemic candidiasis. And so I started these weird regimens to try to combat this mythical dragon of a sickness, including trying to down chlorophyll, trying to take oxygen supplements, trying to. I think I even tried to go on and this is even before keto became an in thing. I actually tried to do a no carb, low carb diet for like a week, and
Wow.
I went into ketosis.
Oh gosh.
And that hurt.
Yeah.
And then after that, I'm sorry. After that, I actually found out that what I've been doing to myself was in the realm of what is considered detoxing, even though there was no reason to do any of this because nothing was actually wrong.
Right.
I mean, there are things that are wrong, but there are things that you can see an actual doctor for, not look up on some integrative medicine website and find a nebulous cure-all for said mythical thing.
So you had mentioned these like oxygen tablets, you said?
It wasn't oxygen tablets. It was I'm sorry, I said that wrong. It was a chlorophyll supplement that was supposedly helped in cleaning out the natural oxygen of your body.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It didn't clean that out, but it certainly made me puke blue. So that was was a wonderful bonus.
Well, I think that's a tricky thing. You do have to try. Like you were saying, like you have to log. It's. I think a lot of these things are different for each person.
Yes. But the bonus of that is that after I finally got over myself and got over the mythical cure-alls and so on, I found out that there was a word for it. It was called detox. I hated that word from then on. And then I wrote my first tea blog ever back in ye old MySpace era, which was on the mythical claim that Wu Yi Oolong was a cure-all for weight loss.
Huh.
And
so that was the catalyst for Steve Stories.
Yep. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Which is why I'm drinking Wu Yi right now.
Full circle. And so I see you also stopped drinking caffeine for a long time. Is that in your notes? Is that part of?
Yeah, I stopped for about a year and a half, thinking that I was really sensitive to caffeine, and I am. I just don't care anymore.
Right. Yeah. Yep. I know on a few episodes where we've recorded, I've had a few too many cups of tea. Afterwards, I kind of just sit there and I'm like, okay, I think it'll pass. I think it will be okay.
That was me last night, by the way.
Yeah. Crazy tea party, right?
Yeah, tea party of one, no sleep, episodes of something on Netflix.
Nice. So those are, I guess, our two first experiences with tea and the health benefits or presumed health benefits of tea.
Air quotes.
Yeah, air quotes or actual quotes. And so I kind of wanted to take a look at, there's all these suggestions for when you should drink tea. Like in the morning, only drink this tea. And before or after meals, only drink this type of tea. Or in the evenings. And I guess we can kind of start with white tea. So I think on your notes, you said white tea is in the evening, which is something that I usually don't drink white tea personally in the evenings. It's more of like a daytime tea for me. But
yeah, go on. I'm sorry.
So do you usually, I see here if it's brewed light, it's in the evening. So do you usually have the tea in the mornings or in the evenings in terms of a white tea?
When I do white tea, it's early in the day because white tea, for the longest time, there was this prevailing myth that white tea had less caffeine because there was less processing involved. And that's not true. Because of the lack of processing involved, it actually has more caffeine per surface area on the leaf. And especially if it's using whole buds, even more so because it's packed with just about everything. And it hasn't actually unfurled or opened up and matured.
Right.
So if it's not a mature leaf, it's basically packed with very young chemical compounds, including caffeine or caffeine theanine, whatever. And so the only way that it's considered light is or considered light on caffeine is if you brew it light at 175 Fahrenheit or whatever the Celsius comparison is. I'm American, shush. But if you're using boiling water and trying to gong fu it, and if it's a good white tea, it'll hold up to that, folks, just so you know. But if you're doing that, then it's going to actually have more of a kick as opposed to a black tea or an oolong and so on.
Right. Yeah. So if you're getting full leaf white teas and you see the bud, so it's usually like a little fuzzy little tea bud it's small.
Trichomes.
Those are those types of white teas have a lot of caffeine in them. So for green teas.
One second. I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's actually a story about trichomes.
Okay.
I have a friend who used to pack tea, and trichomes used to fall off the leaves when she was actually packing these teas. And when she was packing a bunch of, I believe, Nepalese whites, and she collected the trichomes and decided to just brew the trichomes.
Okay.
And she's a tiny, tiny girl. And she messaged me one day, and it was just like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so caffeinated right now. I decided to brew a bunch of trichomes, and it was the most wonderful thing ever. And hi, how are you?"
Yeah, that'll happen. All right, so for green teas, you have here the Chinese greens versus Japanese greens. And for me, I remember when I was in my Girakoto phase.
Yeah.
That I would put a lot of Japanese greens in my kyusu, which is the correct vessel for brewing for once. And I would do just a quick hit, like a lot of tea to just a little bit of water, and I would just take it as a shot. So that gave me, like for Japanese greens, that gave me a really good caffeine kick.
Yeah.
And then Chinese greens, I usually drink. It's a little more slow. I don't do it in like a shot form.
Yeah, so. and I've had the same reaction as you have with Japanese greens. I've never had a Japanese green that's been gentle except for bancha, awa bancha, and hojicha because they're roasted, and so a lot of the caffeine is wilted away in the process. But with the deep steamed stuff, with gyokuro, with kabusecha, I'm wired, man. Yep,
me too. And so for in terms of the date. What time of the day to drink green tea. I usually don't try to drink green tea like the second I wake up as the first cup that I have. I usually try to have it later in the day. Just because on an empty stomach, it can be a little
they're totally rough. That's why they always recommend having a snack with a green tea from Japan, because I don't know why that is. And again, I attribute it mostly to the steaming process for the Kilgreen. There's something in the way that they arrest the process of the leaf die-off with steaming that I'm really not sure exactly what the chemical change that occurs, but I find it very rough on the stomach, like some people find young raw pu'er. And it also goes straight to my head. Like immediately, it causes this temporary but not terribly pleasant headache.
Yeah, it's like you're in a little daze a little bit. Yeah. Well, that's how I feel. So the next is oolong, and oolong. I usually drink oolongs in the afternoons, so it's not really like a morning tea for me, like early afternoons, and sometimes in the evenings for a heavier processed oolong. I'll have that later in the evening, but that's usually not a morning tea for me, and like any time before, like 1 or 2.
Me neither.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's usually my lunchtime tea. Every time I'm on a lunch break, it's always oolong. Mainly because if the day is crummy, oolong makes me happy. I think I've established that in other episodes.
Yeah.
But I don't know, Taiwanese Gaoshans and Tiequanyins, any of the ball rolled, light to mid oxidized traditional oolongs. I don't know. They have a very gentle delivery, which is why, as you say, they're not really a morning tea, but more of an afternoon thing, because it's just to kind of get your fix, but at a softer pace.
Right.
A medium pace.
Yeah. And the thing is with oolongs, I'll have it in my Kyushu as well. And I do, when I was studying a lot, I would do the same with oolongs. I would pack a lot into the Kyushu and I would just do like very quick steeps.
Yeah.
And, even though I could feel the effects of the caffeine, similar to how I could feel the effects of caffeine when I had the Gyokuro, I never had a headache. It's like this, the feeling of the caffeine, like the effects of it with oolong was so different. And I didn't have that kind of daisy kind of a little headache that I did with the Japanese greens in terms of the effects of the caffeine.
No, it's literally a buzz. You're just kind of like...
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really nice. And then you had put a article on here from WebMD on floors. And I'll reserve my thoughts on WebMD for now.
I didn't even read the article because it was there was a lot of misinformation there.
Right. WebMD, the place you go to where you think you're going to die, and then it confirms it immediately. Like, do you think you? Yes, you are.
I think I've got that. I think I got that. You do not have uterine cancer, Steve.
But read this article and think about it some more.
Drink this pour. It will help.
Yes. Yeah, so with pours, that's more of a evening or late afternoon evening tea. And pours, I'd say anything like even early afternoons. I just like pours for me is usually not in the morning, but anytime early afternoon, evening, pour I think does it's really nice.
All right, and the next thing that we wanted to talk about is this pour article on WebMD talking about pour caffeine. And for me, drinking pour, I usually drink pour in the afternoon or even in the evenings. It's usually not a morning tea for me, and it's just a relaxing kind of tea that I can let it sit and steep as long as I want, or do some quick steeps. It's a very easy, forgiving tea to just kind of be relaxed about the entire steeping process.
I agree. I found Shopur particularly, which is weird because I was not a fan of Shopur for the longest time. But I found it to be a perfect evening beverage even before going to bed. It's good to it's a good tea for decompressing, and the caffeine delivery is about as light as a hojicha. And I also found it actually made for a perfect writing tea. I mean, it kind of helped me clear all the detritus from my brain to ease in with more clarity into inspiration.
Oh, wow. So would you say when you're writing your blogs that you're usually drinking a pour then?
Yeah, actually, the last few times it was Shopur that I was drinking, except for the one from this week. I think I was drinking Darjeeling. Duh.
Okay. No surprise there.
Total surprise.
You're drinking Darjeeling.
Yeah, the moment that somebody from Darjeeling starts doing a show Darj, then I think that might be my evening beverage of choice.
Might take over.
Might.
And so in terms of, I saw that you had posted the article about WebMD, so I'll kind of reserve my thoughts about WebMD and all of its supposed directions of the fact that you are dying in every article or have every ailment that you may think you have like
confession.
I have a cough.
I didn't actually read the article. I just thought it was something to look at, but I didn't even peruse it before posting it in there because I know that it was
okay.
WebMD, and chances are I would go down the health benefits rabbit hole that is WebMD and
Yes.
be like, oh gosh, I think I might have cancer of the ear.
Do you have a light cough? If so, you may have cancer of the ear.
Black lung. Black lung. You're getting black lung. Chopur is the only cure.
Do you also see light and move around a little bit during the day?
The sun doesn't actually exist. What you are seeing is a hallucination. Mass hallucination. It means we're all going to die.
Yep. Compliments of WebMD. Okay, we're gonna may get some backlash for that, but so this is kind of like our to recap our overall order of operations in terms of tea throughout the day. So it usually starts with white tea, then evolves into green tea, oolongs, and pours. If we are drinking all categories of teas. So
Yes.
I know we had left one tea out of here, which is black teas, and I don't usually drink a black tea. But for you, do you have a specific kind of time during the day when you do drink black teas? I know it's like traditionally like a morning tea with milk and sugar, right?
I'm of British descent, so I start the morning with a lightly creamed, strong black tea,
Okay,
and I dunk scones in it.
that sounds delicious.
And I think I don't know if it's entirely for the caffeine kick because I kind of like the taste of something that's strong and bitter. I don't know where that came from because that didn't used to be the case when I first got started with tea. So that's quite a palladial change over 10 years. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that may just be your British roots coming back.
might be the British coming out. It's time that you start drinking your beverages strong and bitter, like your mood in the morning.
I like that voice. That's nice.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. So on that note, let's take a quick break, and we'll see you back in a few.
Cool.
Hi there, I'm David.
And I'm Kate.
And we're the hosts of another Zelda podcast.
There are so many good podcasts out there, and some of them in particular concern the Legend of Zelda.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. That is actually the name of our show, Another
Yes.
Zelda podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We have top 10 lists.
Yeah, we do deep dives on game design and production aspects of the different Zelda games.
And we talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. Really just almost anything that has to do with Zelda, we like to talk about it. A new episode comes out every other Friday, and you can subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and YouTube.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
That's right. All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye!
Hey everyone, welcome back from the break. And before the break, we were talking about Geoff and I kind of shared our personal experiences with tea, and then also our kind of flow of the tea throughout the day, from whites and greens to oolongs, pours, and then black teas. So we were talking a little bit about this WebMD article before the break on pours, and I think that's a nice or maybe weird segue into the little deeper dive into these health benefits of tea. And Geoff, I know we were kind of talking about different topics that we wanted to cover for the show, and when a few people had found out that, we were talking about tea or doing a tea show, they said, an interesting topic to cover would be like the health benefits of tea. And like, I would want to learn like what teas are good for what type of things, and when I should drink certain types of teas. And so, I kind of thought about it because I think you and I are both on similar pages in terms of health benefits of tea.
What tea will make my prostate glow in the dark?
If you don't know Geoff's stance on health benefits of tea, that should help. But I had a lot of feedback on, it would be cool. I want to learn more about health benefits. And when I went online and was searching health benefits of tea, or even just reading about tea, the amount of content that was coming up about the health benefits of tea, or the quote-unquote health benefits of tea, was slightly alarming, I would say. There's not a lot of
nothing that can be corroborated by actual reliable sources.
Yes, exactly. So one of the first things or the most common thing that I kind of read about was that teas are very high in antioxidants. They help combat free radicals.
So is everything. I'm sorry. Go on.
No, it's fine. But it's true. It isn't everything. Maybe not in everything, but in terms of like fruits and vegetables, they almost all contain antioxidants.
Yeah. The only thing that can be corroborated as not a health benefit, but a chemical fact is that a tea leaf has more catechins than the average plant that they've been able to find. I mean, it has more of the catechin ECGC, more flavonoids than the average vegetable matter.
Right.
But it doesn't mean that it's going to lead to the elixir of life. I don't care how much Shenang you have read. If Shenang even wrote anything. Didn't he write? Whatever, that's another episode.
Save it, Geoff. So in terms of antioxidants, I think we're on the same page. It's in fruits and vegetables, teas, and also in some like coffee, cocoa.
Yes.
And so it's like, there's these antioxidants, and they're great for combating free radicals. And, no, I'm serious. They're in articles where they talk about like these free radicals and all these toxins that are in your body, and that drinking tea is directly going to combat the free radicals and the breathe through it, Geoff. We'll get through this episode. The free radicals.
I'm fine. I'm doing fine.
He's okay. He's okay, everyone. And so I was like, okay, free radical. I've heard this term used in a lot of different articles about just detox and toxins and all of these.
That's my favorite soft word for detox. When people don't want to be accused of being a snake oil salesman, they'll use the word cleanse.
Right, because it feels nice.
Nice. Yeah, go on.
Right, but like, what a free radical? I was like, okay, what is actually a free radical?
Yeah, I've never looked that up. Do tell.
Yeah, a free radical is basically just an unpaired electron. So there's just like one electron missing, and it's floating around, and it happens, and it's a naturally occurring, so it'll happen in like the ozone. And if you are encountering pollution, so if you live near people and not alone in the forest, if there's cigarette smoke, and even on the list of things that could cause free radicals is like exercise. So basically, just if you're alive, you're probably going to encounter like these free radicals.
Right.
And it's not just one thing that you're going to do, and there's been articles that free radicals cause aging, but like also so many things cause aging, and we don't know exactly what they all are.
So free radicals are just particles.
It's an atom that it's missing an electron on the outside.
Oh, and so it binds electrons from other other molecules.
And supposedly what antioxidants are supposed to do is to like help fix that like outer ring to make it balanced again.
Yeah.
But I mean, how many antioxidants can you consume in your life before it's it's detrimental to you, right? Because balance is kind of key. I mean, if you say like taking calcium tablets are really good for you and you take 1,000 calcium tablets, you are probably going to die.
You want to hear the biggest irony of this is if you start taking too much of something, then it becomes a toxin.
Exactly. Yep.
The mythical toxin is what you're taking too much of
yes.
to fight toxins.
Right. And mind blown. And so this kind of links back to a lot of articles online will say you're drinking tea to help, may help treat or help prevent cancer, or may help lower the risk of diabetes, or may help with cardiovascular disease, all of these things. But the key word here is may.
May.
Yeah. And that's an easy out for anything because they're not actually making a claim. They're just saying it
not
may.
evaluated by the FDA.
Exactly. And so on, I was kind of reading this article on cancer.gov, and they were saying like just in terms of tea consumption, there's so many articles, 50 studies, but that have been submitted in terms of companies wanting to have this claim about tea, that tea is helpful, may help prevent this and that. And
guess where most of these studies were done? Just guess.
Where?
Japan.
Right. And that's another problem too, right? The sample is not. There's other
very biased study put on
yes.
by an industry.
Right. And so even on cancer.gov, if you go on and you read about teas, they say that there's no, like, sure, there have been some studies that at the end of the result, it shows that tea has a relationship with XYZ. But then in another study, it shows that it does not have a relationship with the same XYZ. So these studies they contradict each other. They're not consistent. They're kind of all over the place in terms of, is there a relationship? Is there not a relationship? So on this website, they're saying that these results have been inconsistent. And because that is inconsistent, they can, you can't make the link between this because tea in terms of there's so many different ways that we've talked about in terms of how tea is prepared, not prepared in terms of brewing, but in terms of processing, right? Which cultivar it's from, where it's grown, how it's harvested, how long it's left for oxidation, or, all of these affect the product, the end result, which is the tea leaf. So you can't say like if you drink tea or if you drink green tea, you have to be very specific because there's so many categories in green tea and black tea and pours that it's like, how are you able to,
Not only that, but the studies, even though they say that a lot of the chemical components in tea are beneficial, the amount of tea that you would have to drink to see the benefit that you're looking for, like the cancer-preventing elements therein, you'd have to drink gallons a day, and some people have. And do you know what happened to them?
Yes, what happened, Geoff?
Kidney failure!
Right. Because if you drink gallons and gallons of one type of anything, I think...
You will have a stone the size of a small meteorite.
Mm-hmm. Right. So the use of tea, or the idea that tea is a supplement or is medicinal or is going to cure you can just go on cancer.gov. It's not. They're saying these results are not consistent. So there's no direct relationship. And so we were talking about this article on WebMD, and I was looking at the health benefits of tea on WebMD just as out of curiosity, because it is such a WebMD does. A lot of people do go on it to read a variety of articles about how to improve their health, which I think is great. But the improving health part. But in terms of the catechins, it's saying that it's a type of disease-fighting flavonoid and antioxidant. That's great. But the part that I have a problem with is saying to get the best tea benefit, some studies suggest drinking 3 cups a day to cut the risk of heart disease. It's like 3 cups of tea. It depends on how you define tea, what types of tea there is. So this goes back to the whole drinking tea as a treatment idea. And I think that capping sentence is a little misleading.
It is, and also which kind of tea is going to be beneficial. Some will say green tea and oolong are the best ones. Some will say just drinking white tea alone are the best ones. Some studies will even say that black tea and just black tea alone, or particularly Earl Grey, is the best thing for preventing heart disease because of the inclusion of bergamot oil, because it's because of a citric acid component to it.
Right. And one thing that really, so for you, like words like detox, cleanse, or toxins are really are kind of like a trigger. But for me, it's one that I would have to add on my list is superfood.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
So in this article, it ended with, indeed, tea is considered a superfood. Well, it's not food really, but, well, okay.
I have a story about superfoods in tea.
Great. Let's hear it.
Before I knew that there was a problem, I was drinking this acai berry infusion that was tea bagged. And acai berry is considered a superfood, and this particular bagged tea had ground acai in it. And the only way that ground acai could be packaged was by using soy lecithin as a binder.
Okay.
Well, apparently I'm allergic to soy lecithin, and the fact that soy lecithin, a binder, is in a tea bag is weird enough, but yeah, it actually made me sick for days.
Like you were feeling nauseous?
No, well, yes, kind of. It was more. Gosh, how much is appropriate to share here? Let's just say politely that it was akin to a starship going into system lockdown.
It's nice. I like that. Good.
Yeah.
Great.
You get the point.
I think we get the point.
And then I looked on the bag or looked on the back of the box of the product and it said contains soy, and I'm just like, why the hell is there soy in my tea?
Right. Yeah, that is tricky. So did you email the company?
No.
Okay.
I just never bought it again. What's funny is the loose leaf version of that same acai berry blend not only did it not have the soy lecithin as a binder, it didn't have acai. It only had acai flavoring.
Oh gosh, that's better.
So
artificial flavoring for the win.
Which is fine, but at that point, then it's no longer what it's advertised. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
Another problem for another.
Another problem for another day, because I don't even know what acai is supposed to taste like, because most of those superfoods don't actually have a taste that belongs in my mouth.
Right. Yeah. So superfoods, toxins, all of those are kind of in a similar category.
Yeah.
So I found another article. I went to the FDA. I went to the FDA website to clarify. Not I went to the FDA, but I took a trip to the FDA. No, I went on the website and I found that this Japanese company, which is huge, and they make a lot of actually pre-packaged or bottled teas. It's I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but Itoen.
Itoen, yeah. And I've met the owner of Itoen a couple of times.
Yeah, so
I've slept on their bench that got Did I sleep? I pretended to sleep on a bench that was made of tea leaves that they made.
Oh, cool. So according to the FDA in 2005, they were petitioning so that they could make the claim that drinking 5 ounces of green tea a day may reduce the risk of heart disease. And I think when you're a large corporation, you have all different arms of the company trying to get these types of claims on your product for marketing purposes. So, people who don't usually drink green tea all of a sudden may think, oh, well, maybe I should drink this because it helps with, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah. I actually kind of like E02N as a company because
I like E02N as well.
They are one of the reasons that Australia has a tea industry of any sort. They actually built one of the first big factories, one of the first bot leaf factories in I think it's in Queensland.
Queensland, yeah.
But and I actually liked some of their RTD stuff, particularly their little canned matcha things.
They're gosh, those are really good.
They're adorable and they're delicious.
Yeah, they're really good.
Yeah.
But this is just one thing that popped up in my search on the FDA with teas, and I was like, oh, I know this. Well, I think when you're a company of that size, though, it's there's all different types of departments and whatnot trying. And I would say that this is a marketing play for the company, right? Because then they can advertise more than just flavor and the green tea. They can. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that. So, anyways, in terms of the FDA. They were reviewing 105 or so articles that were submitted, and they came to this conclusion that there's no credible evidence to support qualified health claims for green tea or green tea extract reducing the risk of heart disease. And it is highly unlikely that green tea reduces the risk of breast cancer, prostate cancer, et cetera, et cetera. So, I think the FDA, their goal or their mission is to prevent consumer confusion in any of these health claims. Yeah. So until there are consistent or a well-qualified research studies that are done to prove that there is a link between green tea and whichever ailment these studies want to prove there's a connection to. I would say drinking green tea for the flavor, the experience is
makes you feel good.
Yeah, should be the reason why you're drinking tea.
Yeah.
And earlier you had mentioned that most of these studies are done in Japan.
Yeah.
Or by Japanese companies. And initially, many years ago, over 5 years ago, when I was kind of learning about, oh gosh, this is more than 5 years ago, but when I was initially learning about there's health benefits to drinking tea, I was reading these studies, and one study they had, it was all about it was in terms of green tea and weight loss. And in terms of green tea and weight loss, they were comparing the weight loss among, I think it was the BMI of Japanese men who drank green tea versus Japanese men who did not drink green tea. Or I don't even know if it was the comparison between the two groups, but it was just saying Japanese men who drink green tea are overall healthier and overall have lower this and lower that.
Over here we have correlation. Over here we have causation.
Right.
None the twain shall meet.
Right. A lot of these studies you have to consider what's naturally the foods that are eaten, and they have leaner meals, and there's all these other reasons. It's not just you can forget about everything else in your life. If you drink green tea, it will fix everything. That's not
regional habits, exercise, diets.
Right.
I mean, the way I like to counter anybody who claims that tea is good for weight loss or good for health, I just point to myself as an example.
Okay.
I'm kind of a heavy set guy.
Okay.
I've been drinking tea for 10 years. No, it doesn't work for that.
Yeah, there's actually in China, there's a lot of green tea like supplements, and they have all these pictures of like bottles and if you drink green tea, it's gonna help because of the EGCG, and it's gonna help with like your metabolism and all of these claims. So I think it's good to understand the compounds of tea and what is in tea. There's some actually muscle relaxants in tea, so that's I think oftentimes it gives you a little slower of a caffeine uptick, and then also it drops off without the crash as coffee does. It's a little smoother in terms of the caffeine delivery. And
I would write a Color Me Bad-esque slow jam to L-theanine.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Theanine. Yeah, I just, that stuff. Because it's basically the compound that creates that time-released wakefulness or delayed wakefulness that people associate with tea. Mm-hmm. I remember seeing it in a video once where somebody was comparing coffee drinkers versus tea drinkers and how they wake up. And coffee drinkers need to have their next fix of coffee in the afternoon to prevent themselves from killing other people.
Yes,
that's an
true.
exaggeration. That's not what actually happens. Not evaluated by the FDA. Whereas tea drinkers, at least the average tea drinker, if they're coming down from their initial tea high from the morning, the withdrawal is more like, I guess I better have more tea.
Yeah. Well, all right. I think I will need more tea now.
I think I'll.
Everyone good? Are we all happy? Good.
Good? You need a cup? I'm totally offering cups.
Yeah.
No, you're good. All right.
Yep. So after all of kind of our discussion today, I would say in terms of health benefits, if you want to drink certain teas in the morning or in the afternoon. So for our preferences, usually whites and greens in the mornings, and then oolongs, pu'ers in the afternoons.
But people should take into consideration whether they are sensitive to caffeine or not.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's just try a little bit, and I think it's like coffee. When you start off with coffee, you don't start with like, I will take a quadruple shot of, whatnot. You just try a cup and you see how it affects you and kind of tweak and adjust from there. So it would be something similar to that. But
cold brew, black as tar.
Nitrogen infused.
Nitrogen infused. I have not had nitro coffee.
It's very good.
I'll save that for next episode.
Yeah. But if you're looking to drink tea for any like health benefits or whatnot, I would say you probably best to consult a doctor if you're looking
consult your doctor, and what they'll probably says, well, it can't hurt.
Exactly. Like you're drinking more water, so that's good.
Yeah. I mean, you're putting more fluids in your body. You might pee a lot more, but
at least you're hydrated. Yeah, at least you're hydrated. Yeah. So, yeah. I think we had a pretty good discussion about it. And in terms of antioxidants, free radicals, I'm really glad we talked about that, because free radicals for me, every time I heard like free radicals, cleanse, toxins, superfoods, it's these marketed, fluffy words that are used to evoke an emotional response from a consumer.
Yeah, and doesn't free radicals sound sort of 90s, like 90s kid to you?
It sounds like
free radical!
Like it's a toy.
Like it's a toy.
Yeah. With lightning bolts in the background.
New neon troopers, free radical!
It does a little bit now that you've acted it out. For sure. So if our listeners want to talk more about your experience with health benefits of tea when you first started off, the kind of experiments and the logging that you've done, or want to hear more about your take on health benefits
thereof.
or lack thereof of health benefits of tea, how can they get a hold of you, Geoff?
I am the Lazy Literatus on Steepster, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Tumblr. I think that's it. Oh, Google Plus. I always forget Google Plus.
I don't know if you. That's fine. And your website for Steeps is
Steepstories.com.
And the link to your story is actually on your Lazy Literatus.
Yeah, if you want to hear my whole horror story regarding my really brief foray into detoxing, just look up My Detox Horror Story. Literally that simple. You look up that, you'll see everything in its ugly detail. No pictures, but narration.
Yeah. And if our listeners want to comment on anything that we've spoken about or given any suggestions or want to keep chatting about health benefits of tea or your experiences with health benefits, quote unquote health benefits, of tea, you can get in touch with us at The Tea Fix on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can also comment on our YouTube videos.
Yeah, this shouldn't anger anyone. Not at all.
Yeah, on all of them. So, all right, Geoff, this was a good chat, so I'll catch up with you in a few weeks.
Bye.
All right, talk to you later. If you enjoyed listening to this episode, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes, YouTube, and Google Play. This helps other listeners find our show, and if you'd like, please leave us a review. Thanks!